welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer this week. This is going to be the astro weather for February 4th through the 11th, 2024. We're going to be talking all about Mercury's ingress into the sign of Aquarius and the meetup that he will be having with Pluto. So we'll be experiencing a Mercury-Pluto conjunction. I'm titling this video Rebel Yell. If you guys like my content and you want to see more of it, please make sure you click the bell button below. This will subscribe you to my channel and you'll be alerted as to when I have new astrology videos on the channel. Big thanks to all of you guys who have been liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. You guys are awesome. We're seeing so much growth in the channel. Anybody who wants to leave me a thumbs up if you like this video or leave a comment, I'd love to hear from you. I'd like to hear your hot takes, especially if you have a natal Mercury-Pluto conjunction like me. Yeah, just what you think about what's going on with the astrology this week. So I titled the video Rebel Yell, and no, not like the Billy Idol song, although Billy Idol is one of my favorites, but sorry to disappoint you, this will not be connecting the dots to the astrology in Billy Idol. Nice dude, actually. Fun fact, I met him many moons ago outside of Mr. Chow in Beverly Hills. And yes, he was covered from head to toe in leather and spikes. He looked exactly the same as he did in the 80s. He was really cool. I was just like stunned seeing him, totally starstruck. All I could think about was like that theme in The Wedding Singer where Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler are like on the plane and he's like, you know, singing with them. Anyway. I'm referring more to the rebel yell that comes from really from the Civil War. So the term rebel yell is connected to a very distinctive high-pitched scream or yell that was used during the Confederate soldiers during the Civil War. So it was by the Confederate soldiers during the Civil War of 1861 to 1865. Now this became a well-known intimidation feature for Confederate battle tactics. The rebel yell served various purposes, such as boosting morale among the Confederate troops, demoralizing the enemy, and creating a sense of unity and camaraderie on the battlefield. Now, I'm not pro, obviously, the whole Civil War. I don't think anybody is, or for the Confederate soldiers. But I do think it's an interesting term, right? We've seen this kind of sometimes throughout like pop culture. We've heard it in lyrics. And I don't think anybody really knows what it means. But this term kind of came up for me when I was thinking about the Mercury-Pluto conjunction. It reminds me of the type of energy that's emerging this week, fierce words and collective power. Now we're seeing this everywhere, even if it's not being broadcasted. Obviously the resistance in the world is growing, from the streets of Paris to the farmers in Germany, Ireland, the Netherlands, Romania, Poland, Lithuania, Italy, Portugal, and many more. Now, I'm an American here in Texas, and here in America, the peace convoy today is making its way to Texas, where people all across the nation are gathering to the border. From California to Texas is where it began, but we've seen this kind of spread to other states. Apparently, Florida is sending in the National Guard in support. We're even seeing videos on X of people in boats coming from Florida, making their way to the Gulf in support of basically supporting the southern border. But really what this tells me is that unity speaks volumes. And the question is this week, are you listening to that call? When Mercury conjuncts Pluto in Aquarius, it's going to have all of us talking and thinking about transformation of personal freedoms, the freedom of self-expression, especially when it comes to the collective needs and personal and intellectual freedoms for all of our futures. Pluto and Mercury, when they come in together, in a positive manner in this conjunction, allows for a transformation of power, essentially, right? We're fusing the energy of Pluto and Mercury. So we're working with that power of Pluto and the intelligence of Mercury. And Mercury is the messenger. So he will be the megaphone, basically, throughout this next week. He's the second planet to meet up with Pluto. You guys might want to reference what happened at the end of January when we saw Pluto and the Sun come into conjunction. But this time with Mercury and Pluto, it's going to be about expressing deep, thought-provoking, intense expressions or ideas. Now we know that Aquarius is known as the rebel. It kind of goes against the grain. It doesn't want to be controlled. And ultimately what Aquarius wants to do is it wants to liberate us. So a lot of this week is about conversations that's about freedom of speech. And I think the ability to be able to share what's on all of our minds. Pluto will serve as an ending and a beginning, and Mercury will be the one bringing this message. So Pluto will help us purge, research, expose, and help get us in touch with all of our fears this week. For some, this will feel like we're screaming into the void. So I think that's kind of where that rebel yell kind of comes from. But it's really important not to fear, because this is not the case. This is about confronting the monsters in the closet and not letting fear run the show. Watch for lower octaves of this conjunction. So Pluto can obviously create some very tense situations. We can see a lot of drama, some power struggles. And it is possible when we see this Mercury-Pluto conjunction that we're being faced with issues like obsession, feeling mentally possessed, snooping, spying, manipulating, lying, cheating, deceiving, doom scrolling. These are all kind of Mercury-Pluto tendencies as well. But really the choice is yours. I, for one, consider, I think, Mercury to be extremely powerful in Aquarius. We really associate Mercury both with Gemini and Virgo, but I've always seen Mercury in Aquarius as like almost a higher energy of Mercury. Both because it has a connection traditionally to Saturn, the traditional ruler of Aquarius, and it's the element of air, so it's going to be extra powerful in terms of relaying information, especially the truth and things that can be kind of controversial. And it's about, really kind of seeing that there is like a building common belief or phrase even that might be kind of appearing this week. And it's allowing individual voices to build into a very strong movement. So even though Aquarius represents the crowd, it just takes one person to kind of strike the match that lights everybody's mind on fire. Now, this week can be a conspiracy theorist playground. There's no doubt with Mercury, Pluto, that's a big theme. But there can be an opportunity to answer, I think, to the collective call for change. Expect some big exposures, some drops, some information, breaches. This is probably going to be happening with this conjunction. But I'm hoping that it'll bring about a common awareness of the environmental, the political, the technocratic cults around the world trying to control all of us. Now watch for censoring, okay? Threats to freedom of rights, especially free speech. You're going to hear about talk of death, dying, and limiting, for the common good. I have reported on this months and months ago about Canada's MAID program. It's now making more headlines where some people in politics in Canada are suggesting that, children be allowed to enter into the MAID program for assisted suicide, including orphans and people who are living, beneath the poverty line, which I think everybody needs to be talking about. This connection, I think, is actually because of Saturn. Saturn's the traditional ruler of Aquarius, and Saturn is in Pisces. So it can be about, needing to bring awareness to some of these programs. But for me, what really came up for me is some news that actually broke yesterday. So you guys are actually a couple days ago. So you guys are watching this on Sunday. I'm filming this on Friday. But there's been some news that's been coming out about some concerns or growing concerns about this convoy that's going to be taking place today on the 3rd in Texas. The FBI has essentially suggested that there is cause for concern for white supremacists planning some kind of terrorist attack during the rallies at the southern border. There's discussions about how the NSA is talking about using real-time facial recognition to scare people against protesting. Think about what happened during January 6th, how they were able to go and look at the faces of people who were in the crowds and identify them, very similar to some of the technology that they're using in China. There's real database banks with facial recognition technology that's meant to be used for real potential threats or terrorist tracking. And, I have concerns with this conjunction that's taking place that this is potentially being abused and used to track, scare, and limit people from uniting and limiting freedom of speech of the everyday U.S. citizen. Mainstream media is rolling out terror alerts for this imminent attack. So whether it's real or not, that's not really what I'm here to discuss. My concern is that is there potential false flag things that are going to be going on, where there is manipulation going on within the media to coerce people into thinking that this is a good thing. Now, Pluto equals power. Mercury and Pluto in conjunction is about abuse, spying, especially with the use of technology in Aquarius. And Aquarius is the collective, but it can also be crowds of people. So you want to talk about terrifying? Well, there's Pluto kind of sharing his face with the world in terms of these conjunctions. Got me thinking about Benjamin Franklin, one of the founding fathers of the United States. He made a very powerful statement. There's a quote that came to mind. It's, "Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty or safety." Now, this quote is often cited in discussions about the balance between individual freedom and national security, emphasizing the importance of preserving civil liberties even in the face of security concerns. It's important to note that the wording may have different variations, but it's basically a well-known historical quote, and the essence remains consistent in conveying the idea that sacrificing essential liberties for temporary safety is not necessarily a worthy trade-off. My advice is stay vigilant, friends. Once we identify potential false flag attacks or fake scenarios out in the world this week, it can potentially lose its power. It's important to be asking yourself, what words, what speech or ideas do you have to contribute to the freedom movement? We must continue to protect these freedoms and liberties at all costs. Don't let fear and manipulation get in the way. Speak out against corruption or bullying. All right, so let's talk about the astrology for this week. If you guys are watching on Sunday, happy Sunday. It's the 4th. We are waking up this morning with the moon in Sagittarius. So while the moon's in Sag, we are taking a look at what's going on with Jupiter. So we're going to experience a quincunx or an inconjunct. So there's something that's kind of like not reconciling with abundance, resources, personal growth, or our beliefs. We're also going to see the moon kind of come into a slight square with Saturn Sunday morning. So watch for emotional limitations, challenges sometimes with travel, also limitations in regards to weather or visibility issues. Sometimes we see that with mutable squares. The moon represents the collective, right? Where we're at emotionally. So the moon in Sagittarius is generally a pretty positive transit. We're feeling a little bit uplifted. We're feeling inspired, and we want to get out and we want to do things. But that square to Saturn might kind of pose as some emotional blocks, some challenges at home, feeling a little unsure about something, making it difficult to emotionally relate. So plans may not quite go according to plan. So my advice is wait until later in the day when the moon comes out of a square with Saturn. And things might be a little bit easier to navigate in the late afternoon hours. Now, Mercury is hitting this critical degree here today as well. So we may feel that communication, information, ideas feel kind of like now or never. Watch for important conversations to be coming up with Mercury at this degree. Mercury in Capricorn is about having a plan, having a strategy, meeting deadlines, timelines. So between that and a moon square Saturn, I think maybe we're feeling a little crunched for time. But those are really the only two big transits that we're going to be seeing. We will see that in the very late PM hours, Mercury will ingress into Aquarius. And that moon's going to keep moving through Sagittarius, and it's eventually going to start making some aspects on Monday morning to Chiron in the North Node. So we'll wake up Monday morning the 5th. We've got Mercury and Pluto in conjunction. So this is the big day where you're going to notice some of these intense themes around communication, information, and ideas. I think it might be where we are feeling blocked or limited because of the connection of Saturn. Maybe we have to kind of dig deep and really think about what our goals are, how we can kind of learn to kind of change our mind, transform something. And we may feel like we are starting to get some insight as to what has been blocking us and holding us back. And then secondly, Uranus is the ruler, also the modern day ruler of Aquarius. So what you guys are going to see as we're getting into mid-February, there's just going to be this massive stellium in Aquarius, and it's all reverberating off of both Saturn with these limited blocks and Uranus, which represents some wild twists and turns and changes that are likely going to be happening with the financial system, with our resources. We're seeing this with the farmers, quite literally. I talked about in previous videos how people gathering together in support of those who are growing our food is really, really important. And that's why we're starting to see that there is, to some extent, potential, opportunities for, leaders or government to kind of start backing down a little bit and kind of lessening some of the grip that they're having on the farmers. Because, at least in parts of Europe, I've heard, especially in France, in Paris, people haven't been able to get food. I mean, so Obviously, squares do represent feeling a little landlocked, feeling kind of stuck, not being able to, let both energies flow together because they have to learn to work together. So when we wake up in the morning, we're going to potentially hear or read about, especially on the internet or something in regards to, information channels, that there's, some significant news that's breaking. You want to, be mindful of what you're subjecting yourself to, what you're reading, what you're hearing. Some of the stuff that's coming up around this conjunction is likely going to promote some kind of fear, all right? But the important thing to remember is that it's not just going to be when we have the conjunction. We're going to see as the new moon in Aquarius rolls in and all these planets start squaring Jupiter and also Uranus, that will create almost like an unfolding of the events that have been taking place with the Pluto conjunction. So that's still going to take some time to kind of expand. I do think that I would watch this moon because it's going to trine Chiron in the North Node. So it's going to give us an opportunity to teach others, to heal, to learn more about self-help, wellness, showing up for ourselves. It's an opportunity to learn something. So we want to work with both the trines to Aries and then also the sextile to the sun. What we're going to see is this is really the one last nice aspect that we are going to be getting basically from the moon before we come into the new moon in Aquarius this week. Now, Mercury obviously is going to conjunct. That is going to be taking place with Pluto. Let me give you guys the notes on this. The Sabian symbol for 1 degree of Aquarius, maybe you guys remember, it's the old Adobe mission. I know I read it to you. Let's see. There we go. All right, so Aquarius 1, because we're going to round up, is an old Adobe mission. The keyword is durability, and the theme is spiritual foundations. The symbol speaks to reassurance to sustainment, anchorage, and durability. The image of an old Adobe mission alludes to the ability of everything rooted in the spiritual to flourish and survive. In the 1800s, Spanish missionaries sprinkled the coast of California with missions in an attempt to establish religious roots, to adjunct to territorial expansion. These historic missions have survived to present day. The emphasis here is on the psychological as well as physical survival and the necessity for maintaining meaningful ties to the enduring values that sustain all men. At its highest, it represents spiritual integrity, strength, character, and endurance. The accent is on sustainment. You may find it important to surround yourself with things and people that help you feel anchored today. Your greatest advantage lies in giving time and attention to the relationships that are most important to you. Write a letter or make a call to someone that hasn't heard from you in a long time. Guard against getting overly involved in superficial or time-consuming activities. Don't neglect things and people who really matter. Stepping stones are sustainment, certainty, endurance, anchorage, lastingness, survival, spiritual integrity, incorruptibility, service, and hope. For me, I really think about, when I think about this Sabian symbol, it's like, what are you building, right? What are you building and what's keeping you solid when it kind of feels like the world around you can be a little chaotic? Mercury could literally be words. It could be a mantra. It could be, you tapping in and reading something. It can give you the opportunity to kind of feel grounded in that moment where things can feel, like a little chaotic. When I think of the mission itself, I think it's also about honoring traditional values and reflecting on the traditions and values that are important to you or to your family, considering how you can preserve and honor these traditions while navigating modern life. This also means that we have to kind of blend the old with the new, especially because Aquarius is about updating into, new forms in the future. So it might be important to examine aspects of your life where you can find balance between the old and the new, and look for opportunities to integrate the wisdom and innovative approaches. I think it's about building a solid foundation. I think that really should have been number one. And thinking about the foundations in your life, whether it's relationships, career, or personal development, and evaluating if these foundations are strong and enduring, like the old Adobe mansion. And community and service, exploring ways to contribute to your community or a cause that aligns with your values, and consider how your actions can have a positive and lasting impact. So it is possible that, we can see with this conjunction that people are seeking like-minded, groups, networks, associations, and trying to kind of, meet with people who have like the same kind of thoughts going through their mind. And I think you're going to see this kind of resilient spirit that's going to rise up, where individuals, right, because we're going to see sextiles between Chiron and the North Node, are working and taking it upon themselves to kind of go and like build some of these movements. So it really made me think about like that, that rebel yell, right? We also know that like militias and things which kind of, built essentially the foundation for America to, seek independence. They had to come together. They had to work in, separate cities and towns. They had to also relay messages and news on horseback. It is possible that we see that there is some maybe issues with communication. There is some tampering with communication. We might see that it's difficult to communicate and get through to other people, whether that's literally on a phone or figuratively in conversation. And we're going to see also lots of talks and discussions as Mercury is coming into a square with Jupiter about morals and our belief system and right from wrong. So watch for some of those really intense kind of preachy political conversations, financial conversations, and possibly even on environmental conversations. We're going to hear a lot about that. Now, Mercury-Pluto in general, that conjunction, for me, I think of like depth, right? Because Pluto represents like kind of drilling down into the core of the earth. It's subterranean. And it kind of is strange because we've got Pluto in Aquarius, which is an air sign. So it kind of has like this volcanic effect where whatever's going down below, right, is now spewing up and coming up, and we're starting to become more aware of it. The root cause, right, like the rot potentially at the core of what's causing some of the problems in society is now starting to be purged and exposed. So this conjunction represents communication and thought process that requires a lot of depth, and it can feel intense, but it is meant to be transformational. And when these two planets align in a conjunction, there can be a profound and intense style of communication. Usually people who have this conjunction tend to be drawn to exploring the depths of subjects that are considered unconventional and taboo. So there may be some discussions this week about being like, oh yeah, we don't talk about that because so-and-so is going to think I'm a conspiracy theorist, or, I shouldn't talk about, this topic around a coworker, or, be bringing up my political views in front of my in-laws. That kind of stuff is going to come up this week. I do like the Mercury-Pluto conjunction for research, actually. And, hey, I've got all these planets in Aquarius that are in a superior aspect to all of these Taurus planets. So we are starting to kind of receive information, intel, inside information can be very Mercury-Pluto. But usually people who have this conjunction, or as we have the conjunction play out in the skies, will notice much more focus on research, investigation, uncovering hidden truths. People who have this are naturally very curious and have a knack for delving beneath the surface to discover hidden information. I have that conjunction. I have Sun, Mercury, Pluto conjunct in Scorpio. So a lot of my work revolves around research that I do, and then kind of connecting it to what's kind of going on with the skies and finding a way to be able to deliver it to people so it makes sense, right? So through my Uranus opposition the last year or two, it's really changed the way that I'm doing my work, because I try to focus on teaching people about astrology in action, not just this kind of like, one or two dimensional chart on a piece of paper. I talk about how everything kind of comes together and it affects us collectively. And so I think that, with this conjunction, it has the potential for a lot of us to really tap into intellectual power, right? How much power we wield having truth, or having a document or a piece of data, or some people would say, I've got the receipts. And this can also be about how much power are we giving to technology, right? How much power are we given to, tabletop exercises, or what, groups are saying, or, some of these panels that are kind of telling everybody in the world what to do. And obviously, Mercury-Pluto has a knack for persuasion as well. I think Aquarius adds more of an innovative and intellectual flavor to this conjunction. I think this taking place is really about a powerful and persuasive way of expressing the ideas of the collective. So we might feel that we are more so this week kind of drawn to unconventional ways of thinking that may change or challenge society's norms through communication. So like I said, you're probably going to hear this week, okay, that's building like a catchphrase or a term or something that somebody may come up with that really kind of takes the internet by storm, and then everybody starts kind of running with it or chanting it or saying it, and it becomes almost this voice that's probably seated with one person that is almost reading the minds of a lot of other people, and then it can kind of like start this like wildfire kind of movement. I also think about mental strength and perseverance, you know, because Mercury is connected to our mental abilities, and Pluto does deal with power. You know, Pluto really at its core, I think, is really about transformation and rebirth. So seeing these two come together, we may experience profound mental challenges, but it's about being resilient in the face of intellectual challenges. They might have a deep-seated, you know, determination, or we might have a deep-seated determination to understand complex subjects. Quite literally, I think this is going to manifest as people trying to finally understand what's actually in like the Constitution, what's in the Bill of Rights, what's going on in Congress, what do these bills mean. I encourage everybody, all this stuff is free information, and if you can't find it, then there is the information request that you can make. You can request information about documents and things that are being passed. You know, read legislation, right? Take the time to educate yourself and better understand what's going on and what they're actually talking about in Congress. But equally, I think a lot of this is going to be about people really learning the lingo that's being utilized in the world, right? Convenient, right? Inclusivity, equality, right? We all know that these are words that are being kind of thrown around a lot right now. And on the surface, they sound like great words. But referencing the quote that I made, where we are kind of sacrificing or giving up some of our freedoms just because we are being told we're being offered security, you know, it often makes me feel like that there's something that's being disguised. So Mercury Pluto can literally be the manipulation of words, how words are being manipulated and twisted and contorted, how definitions are changing to constantly keep up with these, you know, constant shifting environmental situations, or these power grabs, or some of these new financial terms and definitions that are coming up about currency. I think this is where people are going to start educating themselves about, you know, where their money is going and how it's being spent. And I think you're going to see people who are going to collectively start kind of sharing this information even more, and you're going to see a movement that's going to start to build. I think about the potential for obsessive thinking. I mean, that happens with Mercury-Pluto conjunctions. While this is a quick conjunction, you're only going to feel for about a day or so. You know, something that you want to be mindful of is that we may notice that we are more fixated on something now than usual, talking about it, learning about it, sharing with people. I think it's important to really, you know, dig deep and also learn to have a healthy detachment to avoid from being overly consumed by our thoughts. And this is where fear kind of can get in and run the show. If we're constantly in this doom spiral of like, well, what's the point? Everything's, you know, everything's blowing up. Like, what can I do? It's the end of the world. We don't want to let fear run the show. Mercury Pluto is just showing us like, hey, this is kind of coming up right now. We need to talk about it. And it's important to kind of get it off of our mind because it may actually kind of release some of the pressure that we've been feeling. So if you've been anxious about having a conversation with someone, or, you know, discussing something, or maybe you found some kind of information and you're like, wow, this is really concerning, I need to talk to somebody about it. These things can happen under a Mercury Pluto transit. And also, obviously, interest in occult or metaphysical subjects. You know, Pluto's association with the mysterious and unseen world, coupled with Aquarius's interest in what's unconventional, is obviously going to probably create a pattern, at least for the next couple of days, where we're going to notice just much more of an emphasis on exploring the occult, the metaphysical, esoteric subjects. And we may feel like there is something very transformative about what we are learning. In particular, you know, the connection with Aquarius is very much associated with astrology. I also think that Mercury's connection to divination, you know, traditionally, everything from tarot cards to reading shells to all kinds of stuff, these two coming together is going to be about some really powerful, you know, opportunities to tap in. We might hear some really interesting, like, people who are like prophesizing, you know, things that are going to be coming. And a lot of it is going to be about the future of the Earth, right? Once again, because it's all connecting to Uranus. So the future of the earth, and probably a lot of these same people like John Kerry and like other people who have been kind of screaming, oh, you know, like the ice caps are going to melt like since the 90s, or that we're all going to be underwater. And so we're going to see a lot of extremism when it comes to environmental discussions and the need to kind of take sudden action and like ringing the warning bells of, oh, there's this impending crisis. Watch for that. I also think it's going to be a lot of people who are going to be, you know, sitting at tables discussing the future of material goods, the future of food, the future also of valuable metals, you know, also the stock market. These are all Taurus things. So you're going to hear a lot of people that are going to have some really extreme views and opinions about, you know, what upcoming changes are going to be happening with the financial system. Now this is going to take us to the 6th. So let me go back to my notes here. Here we go. The other thing that you're going to see also before I move to the 6th, so we're still on the 5th, Venus is going to square Chiron, and then it's going to come into a square with the node. So this is the last planet that we've seen go through Capricorn, now come into a square with the north and the south node. Now, the energy of a T-square, okay, so you guys, you know, kind of like getting T-boned, you're driving, and then wham, something kind of hits you unexpectedly. That's the energy that we're going to feel the 5th and the 6th. Venus square Chiron is going to be about, you know, being more so sensitive, more aware of our wounds. It's also, I think, going to make all of us feel like we need to, you know, be thinking long term, because Capricorn is about timing, about the future of our relationships, about the future of our finances, our jobs, our values, because that's what Venus represents in Capricorn. 16 degrees also deals with home, property, you know, homeland. So this is also like a major turning point, I think, for a lot of people who are kind of saying like, hey, I really want to show love and support for where I live, where I come from. I'm really focusing on safety and security when it comes to my physical home, my relationships, protecting really what you love at all costs. Now you're going to have to look at where Capricorn is in your chart. That's where you'll see the square. But Venus is the ruler of the south node. So it's interesting because we may feel like it's important for us to really focus on, protecting the things that we love with that particular square. Now, as we go through the 5th, we're going to see the moon keep moving. It looks like it's going to pick up a square to Neptune in the PM hours. Can have us feeling a little moody or feeling like, you know, something is changing in terms about our attitudes or our beliefs or our philosophy on life. And then we're going to start to see Mercury separate. And overnight, the moon will change signs. So we're going to see the moon go into Capricorn. That'll be on the 6th on Tuesday. We start to see Venus pick up that square at a 17 to the north and the south node. So when planets square the nodes, it represents like a turning point. It represents a need to integrate more of that particular sign or that flavor of the planet. So really loving yourself some more. It's at a 17, which is going to deal very specifically with what we love, what's in our heart space, creativity, joy, and protecting youth, children, creatives, artists. It may be a day where you're having to work a little bit harder with love. But I do think that the Venus square is going to materialize as a lot of us kind of saying, you know what, my goal, right, my responsibility is about spreading love. It's about being able to, you know, work and harmonize and be diplomatic and kind of find the middle ground with people. So do the extra legwork on the 6th when it comes to your relationships, and you may feel like you need a little bit more beauty and harmony kind of in your environment, even the 5th and the 6th, because we'll see, you know, the moon kind of coming into contact with Venus. That's pretty much it. So we get into Tuesday now, the 6th, and the moon will be in Capricorn when we're waking up. So the moon's in its fall. And I got to tell you guys, like really all the way through the new moon, things are really interesting. Like we've got a lot of lunar transits that are going to take place because the moon is going to have to come into contact with all of these planets before it hits the sun and creates that new moon. But when the moon is in Capricorn, we look at Saturn. So we'll start to see the moon sextiling Saturn throughout the day. So hard work and vision kind of is like the focus. I like the 6th because we are also going to see, even though the moon's in its fall, throughout the day, the moon is going to be making a trine to Jupiter. So this is a really amazing day to kind of get work done. Maybe the Mercury-Pluto separation is like allowing us to be hyper laser focused and like kind of getting on with the show. You guys will notice while the moon is in Capricorn on the 6th and the 7th, people are kind of grumpy, people are agitated. To me, it feels like as the moon comes through all of these planets, it's like kind of pulling the plug in, you know, the bathtub and watching everything kind of go down the drain. You'll see what I'm talking about in a second. But on the 6th, on Tuesday, you know, use this as a really solid working day. This is one of the best days to kind of get stuff done. All right, so the moon's going to keep moving through Capricorn all day on Tuesday. We start to see Venus come out of the square with the nodes, and that's pretty much it. And then we wake up on Wednesday the 7th, and I like the morning on Wednesday as well for a number of reasons. First of all, the moon's going to make contact with Venus, okay? So moon Venus is needing, you know, love, affection, connection, commitment, especially in Capricorn. It can be very much about that. It can be wonderful for meetings, actually. So I like very much so Wednesday morning for business meetings, for conversations with relationships, with partners. This gives us the opportunity to really kind of emotionally connect and also make commitments. We're going to see that the moon is going to make a trine to Uranus. So we are making active changes in our relationship to material things, to money, to food. And it's really great for kind of like alliances and like signing like contracts and stuff. So if you have any proposals, or if you're having to, you know, arrange kind of a meeting with a client, sign anything, I would recommend doing it under this transit on the morning of the 7th on Wednesday. So we'll see this moon-Venus conjunction. Maybe we're waking up, we're kind of craving sweets. That's something else you guys might notice, especially because this is going to form a trine to Uranus. But it can also mean that we're, you know, changing something about our role out in the world. We're mingling well with bosses. We're getting well with clients or superiors. And we're going to start to catch that Venus now is also coming into a trine with Uranus. So this is where we can make positive changes, especially out in the world professionally, positive changes in terms of showing up, taking responsibility for what we possess or what we're building. And that moon is going to make contact with Venus right when Venus is trining Uranus. So really the morning into the afternoon, great working day. We will also see that Mars is in a sextile with Neptune. So Neptune is about holding that vision, right? It's about our belief. It's about our spiritual connection. This is also going to be about inspiration. So I feel like there is a sense of being like, we're now working in the flow. We're feeling kind of guided through vision, inspiration, photography, our dreams, our intuition. And I really love, while the moon is conjunct Venus and Mars, the sextile to Neptune. So probably one of the best working days in my mind. If Mars in Capricorn is exalted, where we are getting a lot of things done, we're seeing a lot of movement, we're seeing a lot of productivity, Neptune is saying like, we're not doing it in a way where we're feeling overworked. We're kind of just in the flow. So it's important to create a vibe, right? If you're at work, it's like, you know, you do need to have, you know, like refreshments and a hangout at lunch, or maybe you do need to have like a meditation on a break, or maybe we need some music or something to kind of create that atmosphere so we can kind of feel like, okay, we're at least enjoying the work that we're doing. So try to bring Neptune in the process. It can kind of help, I guess, like lubricate all of the work that we're doing. Then we're going to see the moon and Venus trine Uranus exactly in like the mid-afternoon hours. Okay, so this is where stuff gets kind of weird. So on the 7th at night, we start to see that the moon is coming into conjunction with Mars. So it's going to happen in the late PM hours on Wednesday, early Thursday morning. So while the moon was with Venus, it was kind of like lovely, and it was like, you know, very practical and feeling good in terms of a relationship with other people. At night, the moon comes into conjunction with Mars. So then there is this pressing matter, or maybe there's more passion. Maybe there is a sense of working late into the PM hours for some people. But Moon-Mars contacts can feel emotionally irritating, agitating. You know, maybe we're restless, having a difficult time sleeping on Wednesday night. Certainly when the moon's in Capricorn, you know, we're kind of looking at, well, what's going on with the government, or what's going on with bosses or leaders, because that's really what that sign rules. So when the moon comes into contact with Mars in the early morning on Thursday, it's then going to separate, go into Aquarius, and it's going to hit Pluto. So I'm thinking about like world events really early on Thursday morning. I feel like while the moon hits Mars, it can be about military action. Moon conjunct Pluto, everybody wakes up on the 8th and there's like shocks and surprises about what's going on in the world. I think about how we've got all these planets in Aquarius, and we're seeing the sun in Aquarius come into a square with Uranus. It's like, and this is that kind of, like I said, pulling the plug, everything's kind of unraveling, or everything is kind of coming out vibe. So the moon hits Pluto. So like, I would take it easy on Thursday morning. You know, there's no need to be having drama, crisis, conflict. I do think that that happens when the moon conjuncts Pluto. I know that we're in a dark moon, which means we're actually gearing up and getting ready for the new moon that will be taking place the next day. And likely, you know, this is a new moon that's like, if you want to make a change, this is the new moon to do it. I did a video on it. Go check it out, the new moon in Aquarius. If you want to cut ties, cut cords, if you want to get real or update your goals, if you're wanting to take more responsibility, if you want to make a massive shift in an area of your life, this is the new moon to do it. And likely on the 8th, leading up to this new moon, this would be like, okay, you know, you've been strategizing leading up to this point, and you set your intentions about, you know, clearing everything and starting new, or changing the direction where you're going with your life, maybe. That's what you want to do. But I like the moon conjunct Mars and Pluto for being like, okay, cutting ties with this thing, cutting that bad habit. You know, if we need to end the relationship or the friendship or whatever, that's how you want to use that. Now, as we continue to go through Thursday, we are going to see then the moon keep moving. The sun will square Uranus, obviously early in the day as well, at 19 degrees. So that's kind of like an anything goes day. Don't be surprised if like the will of other people or the goals of other people are getting in the way of you doing something. It can be a day where you kind of need to just remain flexible, because there can be a bit of kind of curveballs being thrown at you and things that kind of change your schedule or kind of shift the direction where you're going with something. Then we're going to see the moon make it, the last contact before the new moon will be with Mercury. So that can mean collectively everybody's talking about, well, did you hear the news? Or, you know, this thing happened, or this bank collapsed, or like, you know, this potential thing kind of, you know, spilled out in terms of an expose, like politically, right? And what's interesting is that it is going to be, it's going to be dramatic. The moon Mercury conjunction is at a 5. So it's relating to celebrity gossip, leaders, you know, drama, somebody, some general or somebody out there, you know, taking some kind of action. And then the moon's going to keep moving throughout the day. So man, the 8th is like, 8th's a little wild there. And even into the evening, it's not really making too many aspects. So kind of quiet. Now on the 9th, which will be the Friday, this is when the new moon in Aquarius comes in. It's going to come in at 20 degrees. Right there. So new moon. So if you have any planets, you know, 19, 20, 21 degrees of Aquarius, pay attention. Because that's kind of like that restart. Aquarius is ruled obviously by Uranus, and it's square Uranus. So this is like, okay, we have to do something completely different out of the box, especially if you want to see some significant growth or change or transformation in your house of Taurus, because we're seeing that incoming conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus in April, where there's going to be like sudden, you know, crazy growth, or I think there's going to be like maybe some stuff going on with the banking system or some, big stock or market fluctuations. But I like this new moon in Aquarius for wishes, for goal setting, for being like, you know what, I want this so bad that I'm willing to kind of open the door to change. I would keep an eye out because Mercury is also coming into a square with Jupiter, where there is some kind of like indication that there is big news that's breaking. I think it's part of whatever's been going on with the conjunction with Pluto. Likely by the time we get to this point, right around the new moon and maybe even into the 10th, that information is larger than life. Obviously, we know like when Mercury squares Jupiter, there can be like, telling tall tales. There can be, stories that have been kind of changed a little bit, especially like after it goes through the telephone game. Things can feel magnified or kind of embellished a little bit. What else are we going to have here? And then we will see later in the day, the moon is going to leave, actually going into the next day, so it's going to be going into the 10th. The moon will leave Aquarius and it's going to go into Pisces. So this will be on Saturday. So we wake up in the morning on Saturday, moon and Saturn are going to come into conjunction Saturday. So we're feeling kind of quiet, reflective. This is when that Mercury-Jupiter energy is going to perfect, and it's at an 8. So I think it's going to be about like secret information or declassified documents or some kind of news getting out that was meant to be secret, and it's kind of being relayed. So that'll be coming out Saturday morning. I think that, the Moon-Saturn conjunction, usually that can represent that like emotional hardening, right? But Pisces is meant to kind of dissolve and like soften. So, Saturday morning is really great for getting up, taking a walk by the beach, doing some meditation, doing some yoga, some journaling, some reflecting, and getting quiet. And it's really lovely to see as the moon approaches Saturn that there's also going to be a sextile to Jupiter and Uranus. So it doesn't mean that you just have to kind of sit in a room and meditate. It means that you could be in a garden, you could be going for a walk in the park, you could be doing something that's also integrating, and working with the element of Earth. Kind of vibey as well. I think that that's a positive sextile. Now, what else are we seeing take place here? The moon will conjunct Saturn, sextile. Okay, so that's pretty much the only aspects. Watch for just like information though that seems like a little out there. I think with Mercury and Jupiter being at an 8. What else? So then the moon's going to start to separate with Saturn in the PM hours. So it's kind of reflective all day. Leading us to the 11th, the moon will still be in Pisces on Sunday when we're waking up in the morning. It is now starting to sextile Uranus. So we are kind of changing and adapting, maybe planning, getting ready for the next week. And we're going to see over the next couple of days, Mars is going to hit a critical degree. So now we're going to start seeing, Mars and Venus next week coming into the late degrees of Capricorn, where it's been like really hard work, dedication, getting out there, really focusing on getting, I think, the new year off to a good start. And we're going to see them ingress into Aquarius. So they're going to have to meet up with Pluto. Now, the Mars ingress won't be till the 13th, so that's a part of next week's video. But just be mindful that you're going to start feeling the Mars-Pluto conjunction. Very powerful, lots of energy. It's really meant to propel us forward and to make changes. We can be seeing that there can be some temper tantrums, some outbursts, some anger, some agitation. So watch for that as well. But that'll be coming more next week. And we are going to see later in the day on Sunday that the moon is going to start coming into a conjunction with Neptune. And it's going to sextile Mars and Venus, and it's going to sextile Uranus. So I like Sunday night for like, movie night, like wining, dining, staying in, having dinner at home, being kind of cool, calm, collective, reflecting. And it can be a time that can be wonderful for kind of like socializing as well, but something that's a little bit more low key. This is a nice reprieve from some of the more intense energies that we saw with like Mercury and Pluto. And it's also a little bit of a break before we start to see these planets come into conjunction with Pluto as well. So really that's like the week kind of breakdown. I did want to talk to you guys about the Mercury-Pluto conjunction through the 12 signs really quickly, just give you a hot take on what to watch for, what might be coming up for you with this conjunction. The conjunction will be at 0 degrees of Aquarius. So if you have anything, I would say like 0 to 2 degrees of Aquarius, pay attention. You know, you might notice your spidey senses are tingling. It is also possible for those of you guys who have planets at like 28, 29 degrees of the cardinal signs. So Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, you're still kind of feeling the vibes of Pluto because Pluto is still conjunct those degrees. Mercury rules, obviously, Gemini and Virgo. So you guys are going to be kind of coming across some information or realizing like a secret or a sudden change maybe this week. And Pluto rules Scorpio. So Scorpios, maybe you guys are the ones who's kind of like relaying the truth, revealing something to somebody this week. And a lot of it's going to be about your keen kind of mental or intuitive abilities. But I think everybody's gonna get something from this. I'm curious to see how it manifests for you. As always, I'm a Western astrologer. I'm not a Vedic astrologer. I see people ask me this all the time. I practice Western tropical astrology. And to make the most of my videos, I recommend listening to your ascendant sign because I go in zodiacal order. So I'm going to be talking to you guys about the Sun-Pluto conjunction. Listen to your rising sign and then listen to your sun sign and then listen to your moon sign. You'll see some truth from all of them, but the rising sign I find is generally the most accurate, at least for me. And once again, this conjunction is happening on the 5th of February, but you might feel it a couple days and a couple days after, and know that whatever kind of revelations that kind of come up for you from this conjunction, Mars and Venus are coming like in the next week or so, and they're going to kind of help propel that forward. And really, I think a lot of this is about getting down to the realization of what it is we want to change, what our goals really are, and what we have to do to make that happen. All right, so I'm going to start with my Aries and my Aries risings. What's going on, guys? You're going to see this conjunction in your natal 11th house. Okay, so this is friendships, goals, and networking. That's the space of the 11th house. This is about making deep connections with friends, transformative group experiences, and a focus on revolutionary or innovative goals. Mars will be there soon. So it looks like if you make the connection throughout this transit, you know, like maybe join a group online, you find a local group that you want to be a part of, maybe you like read a book or something that's connected to some group initiative. It's going to really give you the opportunity to make some big changes in terms of who you're friends with, who your allies are, right? So start thinking about that when this conjunction comes up for you. We've got, let's switch this. There we go. We've got Taurus and Taurus rising. You're going to do the Mercury Pluto in Aquarius conjunction in your 10th house. Wowzers. So for you, Taurus, this is about the place of your career, your public image. This is about intense and transformational career pursuits, a focus on communication in public life, and potential for influential roles. Words have a lot of power right now, Taurus, okay? A lot of power. And being that Mercury rules your money house, your 2nd house, and also your values, and it also rules your 5th house of creativity, you might be talking a lot about what you value, what you're creating, what you love, and like you're sharing something about maybe even your personal talents with the world. Really positive for important conversations, negotiations, you know, business dealings, and like you have the megaphone basically with this particular transit because it's at the top part of your chart. So people want to hear about what you have to say. Good luck. We've got Gemini and Gemini rising. You will be doing the Mercury-Pluto conjunction in your 9th house. Mercury rules your chart. Okay, so this is interesting because the meetup with Pluto does signify maybe a change in regards to your beliefs, something that you're learning, maybe a new mentor, somebody kind of pops in. Because the 9th house deals with higher education or philosophy. So this will be about a deep exploration of philosophical or spiritual matters, transformative experiences through higher education, travel. It can also be a time where you are kind of tuning into like your higher purpose. You know, Pluto rules your 6th house of service. And Mercury doesn't just rule your 1st house, it also rules your 4th. So you might be learning a lot about your lineage, where you come from, your family history. You might be traveling and exploring a place this week, or contemplating even maybe some kind of significant shift with your home. And also there can be powerful connections, like I said, with teachers, mentors, lawyers, like legal situations here also. Good luck. We've got Cancer and Cancer rising. You'll be doing this Mercury, Pluto, and Aquarius conjunction in your natal 8th house. For you, Cancer, the 8th house is about shared resources, transformation, healing. This will give you an opportunity for deep exploration of shared resources, transformation through joint finances, and an interest in the occult or hidden matters. Well, yes, that's very much the 8th house. I think about Mercury's connection to your 12th. Where you can be, healing some kind of trauma or some kind of financial situation, getting some kind of aid if necessary. And also tax documents might come up, or conversations about, insurance, or, like having intense conversations about like even your mental or your emotional state can kind of come up this week. And it's about allowing the subconscious to kind of purge, and you're doing it in a way where you can identify like what you've been afraid of so you can finally heal it. So whether it's like intimacy or financial matters, it's important to be talking about it, get it out, write it down, so that way you can kind of start to work through it. Good luck. We've got Leo and Leo rising. You'll be doing the Mercury-Pluto conjunction in Aquarius in your natal 7th house. Oh boy, Leos. So this is taking place in your relationship sector. Really interesting because this is about partnerships. So it can be friendships, romantic relationships, spouses, business partners, friends, other people, right, who may be allies. So for you to have this here, it's about intense and transformative conversations in relationships, deep communication, potential to grow through power struggles. Now, Mercury rules money and resources, and also communications and your goals. So likely, the sun's in the 7th house, there's a lot of relationship energy here. So whether this is your marketplace and you're selling to people and you're trying to get information about what people want, how to sell it to them, or you're having heart-to-heart conversations with partners about what it is that you need in order to feel secure physically or financially, and what is actually changing and transforming with them to help you guys kind of come together and be stronger. I really recommend also, if you've been having some issues in friendships, the relationship with friendships, this can be a time where you can kind of address them, so that way you can heal and you can move through them. Good luck, Leo. We have Virgo and Virgo rising. You'll be doing the Mercury-Pluto conjunction in Aquarius in your 6th house. Mercury is your ruler, so this is about you. Doing your due diligence, I think, to really pay attention to your health, your routine, and your habits. Deep thinking about health matters, intense work habits, and a focus on majorly transforming your daily routines. Now, in particular, Pluto rules your 3rd house, so it might mean that you're more mindful of how much time you're spending on your phone, and maybe you're more mindful of you needing to rely on electronics or technology. Maybe you are really interested in, learning new habits. It can be a wonderful time if you want to quit a habit. So if you're like, I want to quit smoking, I want to, stop being afraid of things. I want to stop, being I don't like saying paranoid, but Mercury Pluto is like, if you're afraid of something, if you have something that you're afraid to do, like driving, or if you're afraid of getting sick, or like whatever, this can bring this to your awareness, and it can kind of help you clear it out. Watch for intense conversations with health practitioners, or possibly issues also with some coworkers. So there can be some drama in the workplace. Steer clear of it, and don't try to get into the middle of it. That's my advice, especially because the 6th house can actually show you where that can impact you and your health, right? So you're wanting to kind of clear yourself of any drama or, any, gossip that's going on, because it can have a negative impact on you. Good luck. We've got Libra and Libra rising. You will be doing this conjunction of Mercury and Pluto and Aquarius in your natal 5th house. For you, Libra, Mercury rules your 12th house and also your 9th house. It's meeting in the 5th with Pluto. The fifth house of creativity, romance, children, self-expression. This is about intense creative expression, deep and transformative romantic experiences, and a strong interest in self-expression. So you may find that you're becoming really fixated with a hobby, you're really interested in like having fun, you're wanting to be really creative and expressive. It may be, spiritually, it may also be including, travel or learning, other languages or something about other cultures. This can also be about playtime, like getting like really serious about having more playtime and really committing to the idea of making more time for that. So whether it's date nights, playing with your kids, things like that. And it's possible that a dream kind of comes up for you that inspires you to want to create something or inspires you to want to talk about something. Obviously, you and, Gemini really, benefit from these planets going through Aquarius. It's going to be trining your sun, moon, or rising. So it's helping you find more balance, I think. And yeah, helping you focus more on making time for the things that you love. So pay attention to dreams. Also, like metaphysical interests might kind of turn into hobbies. Good luck. We've got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. You will be doing the Mercury Pluto conjunction in your natal fourth house. My Scorpios, this I think is really going to be about some information being brought to you because you're Pluto. So it's happening in your fourth house of home and family. So this can be about obviously emotional intensity with family members, potential for transformation in the home environment. Mercury represents joint resources, insurance, things revolving around death and transformation. So you might hear about inheritance, documents, deeds, estate stuff can come up. Having more in-depth conversations with partners about resources and transforming the home. And also the fifth house of creativity, the 11th house of others' creativity. It's your friendships. So what does it mean? Connecting with friends from the past, maybe, friends that are reaching out to you. Maybe it's about with the help or the assistance of friends, transforming something in the home space. And it can be about having conversations with the family about, what's going to be changing within your home space. It can also be about a secret, okay, because Mercury's connection to the 8th house. So you may receive some secret information, or you might have an interaction with a family member. And it may be something involving joint resources of some kind. Good luck. I've got Sag and Sag rising. You'll be doing the Mercury, Pluto, and Aquarius conjunction in your natal 3rd house. For you, my Saggies, this is going to be all about communication. You might see it be a little bit about like gadgets. It can also be about transportation, siblings. And this connection in the 3rd house is very powerful because Mercury does very well in the 3rd house. So this is about powerful communication skills. You might notice that there can be a little bit more sibling rivalry than usual, or an intense conversation with a sibling or a neighbor. But you may also focus more so on deep intellectual pursuits. So you may be making more time to study something, to take time to meditate, to journal, to write, to pause and reflect, because of Pluto's connection to the 12th house. So it's about your subconscious and how you're learning to work with your subconscious to shift something about your day-to-day life. It can be really powerful to work with mantras right now, or meditation to kind of help you feel inspired before writing. Watch for some, kind of unexpected information that kind of comes maybe through a neighbor or a sibling. Also, this is a wonderful time to be doing some kind of like dream interpretation work, because the 12th house lord, being Pluto, is now making itself seen in the 3rd. So you might have a fixation on that, or maybe you're working with tarot, maybe you're like journaling and using mantras. And it can have a really positive effect on not only your thought process and how you communicate, but how you communicate with other people, right? Because Gemini is, your partnership sector. It's ruled basically by Mercury. So it can enhance your communication skills with other people. It can also enhance your business skills. It might be an indication that you're kind of gearing up to have a new blog or a new website or something like that as well. Good luck. We've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You'll be doing the Mercury-Pluto conjunction in your natal 2nd house. For you, my Capricorns, this is the house of finances, values, self-esteem. So you'll probably be deep thinking about personal goals and financial matters. Potential for transformative financial insights are likely to emerge. Now, in your second house, this can be like some kind of news about, your financial situation. Mercury rules the sixth house, so it can be about, how you're organizing your finances or your resources. There can be a new financing app that you can be working with, or like a new banking app, or like a money saving app, or something to track your expenses. Mercury is also connecting to the ninth house. So if you have been waiting on money to arrive from a foreign land, if you have to make some kind of, legal payment, or if you have to pay for, the documents or the paperwork for a visa, maybe you are anticipating, having to deal with paying for, new courses or classes, that can come up here because the second house is what you possess. So you may have to pay somebody to kind of help you, kind of get something in order. So if you need a document, you might have to pay for it. Equally, you might be finding that you're willing to pay for things that are going to help you feel better organized, or feel like you're more so in control of your money. I think this is important for you because you're going to see Mars and Venus go through here pretty soon. So it might be news that something is coming in, and you're going to have a pretty nice financial run with all these planets through here, Capricorn. So watch for that news that's coming. We got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. Obviously, the Pluto-Mercury conjunction is in your sign. I'm expecting you to be the one who's doing the yelling, to be honest with you, yelling into the void. Mercury and Pluto on your ascendant is somebody who wields the power of telling truth, exposing things, showing other people, what we may not necessarily see. The first house has kind of like a shoot first, think later kind of mentality, because it's like that energy of Aries. So you may feel like you're just kind of transmitting information, or you're receiving information from the ethers. It does rule your eighth house, so your spidey senses are probably going to be very much on this week, and you're able to perceive things that others may not, or you're picking up on stuff that's coming, and you're kind of like, you might be feeling like you're just like a little transmitter of information from the cosmos, to be honest with you. Mercury also has connections to your fifth house of creativity. So there can definitely be a sense of feeling very inspired to change something about your creative kind of tendencies. You may become really obsessed or fixated with a project, or with a hobby this week. And watch your communication with your kids. If you have children, or maybe if you have like younger people in your life, or it even can be with like a romantic partner, there can be a tendency to be communicating very, very passionately, very intensely. But if the focus is on what you love, what you enjoy doing, what you bring to the collective, and inspiring other people, this can be used in a positive way. But I think you're also emotionally and mentally committing to being like, I am making some changes. You'll really start to see that when Venus and Mars kind of come through your sign. Check in with the heart space a lot because of Mercury's connection to your fifth house, okay? But yeah, intense communication style with a focus on self-expression and personal transformations for you. And then we've got Pisces and Pisces rising. You'll be doing the Mercury-Pluto conjunction in the sign of Aquarius in your natal 12th house. So this is about, the ethers, spirituality, dreams, things that, you may not feel like you have access to. This is about deep introspection, the potential for transformative spiritual experiences, and a focus on the hidden or subconscious realms. Really powerful dreams can be happening. You can also use this as an opportunity to kind of really sit and reflect. There can be an opportunity to get some insight from another person. It'd be really powerful to work with like a healer, or like to get a reading, because Mercury's connection to your seventh. So it can be somebody who's telling you something or giving you some kind of information, and maybe it helps you make sense of, what's going on in your life. They may be like forecasting or like predicting something. And Mercury's connection to the fourth house, which is the home. So what's interesting is, the 12th house also is kind of seeing as something that's getting ready to rise. because you're getting ready to see these planets ultimately the next month across your ascendant. And so it can be that there's changes going on with relationships or your home situation. But before that happens, there has to be something that kind of like completes. You have to see some kind of completion with home or partnership. So maybe you're taking some time to pause and reflect before, you know, you kind of go into some of these shifts. So if you're going through some relationship changes, it could make sense with Mercury in the 12th house conjunct Pluto. Maybe there may be the sense of knowing that, hey, you know, this has kind of run its course, or maybe it's time for me to reach out to that person that I've had an interest in. Maybe I should say something. Certainly that next new moon in Pisces is going to be an interesting one, because it's going to be about going after what you want. And also I think that this is about being able to really, you know, learn to let go of certain family dynamics that aren't working for you as well. Now, Mercury does have, Pluto has connections to the 9th house. So this can also be about deep spiritual awareness about what is actually changing and transforming with relationships in home and family, and that these things need to kind of come to a close so something else can kind of be reborn, right? Very spiritual time for you, Pisces. All these planets are going through your 12th house, so you're definitely the one pulling you're pulling the plug in the drain, and you're watching everything kind of cycle out. So just kind of be present with it. Just observe what's happening and know that it's because it's bringing you something new, okay? Hopefully that was helpful for you guys in navigating this next week. Putting together a video for you on Mercury's transit through Aquarius. You guys are probably going to see that on Tuesday. And some other videos that are going to be touching on some of these other ingresses with other planets. As a reminder, you guys can always check out my monthly horoscopes. That's a more in-depth look at each and every one of the 12 rising signs. I talked to you about what to expect for the month ahead. Those are live. Equally, I'm running a special on my website. I am offering $50 off Synastry readings that are booked in the month of February in honor of Valentine's Day. I'm going to tell you all about where and how love might strike. So there's a few more spots open for that if you guys want to book one. If you want to book a personal reading with me, I'm always happy to see you. You guys can check out more about what I have to offer. All of my astro calendars, my candles, and all the other stuff that I sell at beyondtheveiltarot.com. Until next time, I hope you guys enjoy your Sunday and the rest of your weekend. I will catch you back here, obviously, throughout this week. I hope you guys are also doing your due diligence to do your research this week and watching for Mercury and Pluto out in the world. So check back with me. Leave me some comments. Let me know how this is materializing for you, and what deep insight did you kind of pick up during this transit. Take care.